Hey kids, welcome to Unit 4, Lesson 9, Random, Exercise number 4. This video is going to tackle Exercise C. It is a combination of A and B. So Part A will take care of random shapes. Part B will generate random images. Let's go ahead and jump into the code and see what we have to do. We're going to create a scene that draws random shapes and images using random colors at random locations in the theater. In Random Scene Java, we're going to write the Draw Random Shapes method to draw the number of shapes specified by the numShapes parameter. We're going to generate a random number between 0 or 1, draw a circle if the number is 0, and draw a rectangle if the number is 1. We're going to choose a random color from the colors array and use the set fill color with a randomly chosen color. Hint, use the color's length to set the range of the index value to choose from. We're going to choose a random X and Y location to draw the shape. And then another hint, use the getWidth and getHeight method in the scene class to set the range of X and Y location to choose from. Then we're going to write the Draw Random Images method to draw each image in the image array. Again, choose a random X and Y location to draw the image. And another hint, use the getWidth and getHeight methods in the scene class to set the range of the X and Y locations to choose from. Then in myTheater, we're going to call the createScene method with a number of shapes to draw. Then we're going to use the theater play scene to play the scene, and we should end up with this random scene popping up. Let's take a look at our code. We have our two arrays. One is colors, red, blue, orange, green, purple. And we have images, headphones, microphone, laptop, speakers, and television. Then we're creating a new object, myScene, from the random scene class. It is passing along colors and images. Let's look at random scene. We are extending our scene class. We have two private arrays, colors and images. We're instantiating one object, random scene. It's taking those two arrays as parameters. We have a place to complete our random shape method and a place to create a draw random images method, and then the create scene method. I know this seems like a lot, but really, if we follow the steps, it isn't too bad. First thing we're going to need to do is to create a loop. And we need to use the numShapes as a parameter that's going to be passed along. So let's create our loop. That is for our parentheses and our curly cues. This is our end of for. And what do we want inside here? Well, we want to loop around as many times as the user tells us. We need to create the loop int I is equal to 0 as long as I is less than the num shapes being passed along. We're going to go I plus plus. Now we have to generate a random number between 0 and 1 and draw a circle if the number is 0 and draw a rectangle if the number is 1. That means we need to create a variable to have a random number. So let's create a variable int random num. And that is going to be equal to, well, we're going to cast this to an int. We need our math.random function. So math.random. And how do we get a number between 0 and 1? Well, if I multiply times 1, I'm always going to get 0 because a number has to be 1 in order to get it. What if we multiply times 2? 0.9 times 2 would always give us a number less than 2, which would be 1 when it is cast to an int. And it also can be a number 0 if it is less than 0.99. So let's put 2, and that should generate a number between 0 and 1. And kids, this is just a good line of code to remember because you're going to be asked to do this quite a bit. Don't forget your semicolon. Now we have to choose a random color from the colors array. We're going to need another variable to store that, and we'll call this color index. And this is again going to be equal to the same int. And we're going to the math.random function again. And this time, we just want to multiply it times whatever the length of that array is. So we can just do multiply colors dot length. So if we have 5, we'll be multiplying that number times 5. If we have 4, it'll be 4. Again, don't forget your semicolon. Now we have to use random to set the fill color. Remember, set fill color has this method. So let's do set fill color. And we want to set it to the colors method, but we want to go now to the color index we just generated from above. And if I remember, we're using the same names as our parameters here. So really what we should do is use our this keyword. So let's put this set fill color and this colors right here. Now we're going to choose a random X and Y location. And how are we going to do that? Just like above. We are going to create a variable X and Y, get a random number, and they want us to use the get width and get height as the range. What's that look like? Well, for our X, we'll create an int X, and that's going to be equal to our int in our math.random class, and we're going to multiply it times the get width method. Again, we're going to put the this keyword in here to make sure we're getting the right parameter passed. We're going to do the exact same thing for the Y, just change it from the Y to the height. So int Y is going to be equal to our int being cast on our math random class. And that is going to be multiplied get height. We're missing a parenthesis here and a semicolon. Looks like our parenthesis went over here. We also want to get this height when we call it. That width and height is for the screen. Now we want to set a width and height for our shapes. And we want them to be uniform, so we're going to set them right here. Let's set the values. Int width is going to be equal to, we'll make it 50, and int height is also going to be equal to 50. We're not done yet. We still have to tell it whether we want it to draw ellipse or rectangle. So let's make an if statement down here. If, parentheses, and our curly cues. This is our end of if. And if our random num from above equal 0, then in that case, we have to draw a circle. So if the random number is 0, we're going to draw ellipse. And we want it with the x, y, width, and height we generated from above. Again, we want to tell it this ellipse. That draws our ellipse. If that does that, else, and we'll put our curly cues, else we're going to draw a rectangle. Again, we want to pass the same x, y, width, and height, we randomly generated from above. Got a G there, get rid of that. I think that's right there. We also want to point to this object as we draw it. I think that's everything we have to do for our draw random shapes method. Let's clean up our code just a little. That takes care of our random shapes. Let's take care of our random images. And how are we going to do that? Well, again, it tells us the same thing. We're going to make X and Y locations, set it to random, and that's where we're going to draw our image. Let's go down here. We're going to create another for loop. This is going to be our end of for. Let's give ourselves a little space here to look. This time we want to loop around again. What do we want to loop around? Well, we want to go through the images.length. And we want to progress through them as long as there's images. And when it comes onto one of those images, we want to give it a random X location. So we got to go in X. And that is going to be equal to, we're going to cast it eventually into an integer. And we're using the math.random function. And this time, we want to multiply it times the get width or get height again. So times get width. And don't forget your multiplication there. Also, we don't want it to go to the right to the edge, so let's subtract 50 from each. We're going to do the same thing for the y, and y is going to be equal to a new eventual integer that's going to be cast. And we want to go to the math.random, and we want to multiply again times the get height measurement minus 50. Don't forget your semicolon there. And we also want to do the this object as we call it. And we want that to be its own function too. So I am going to enclose this into its own little operation. We're not done yet. We have one more thing to do. We actually have to call our draw image method. So I'm going to go draw image. And inside here, we need 4 parameters. The first is the image we want to draw. So we're going to go images at whatever index we're at. Then we need the X location, the Y location, and our final is percentage of height, which we want at 100. We also want to point to this object. So you have a spelling error there anyway. So we want to do a this draw image. That looks like everything we have to do in random scene. Let's head to myTheater and finish up what we have to do. And the first thing we have to do is call the create scene. So we're going to go my scene, create scene, and we have to give it the number of objects we want passed. Let's do 20. Then we have to call our theater scene. So that is theater.play scenes. And we're going to call the myScene method. And that is not spelled right. We have no S there. That looks better. Now when I hit run, I should get 20 random shapes popping up and my 5 images in a random location. Well, let's see if we're right. Looks like we have an error. It's theater plays scenes. I was right. Let's clear it, hit run. Let's hit run again. So we're getting 20 shapes, and our images are going to random locations. Let's try it one more time. There we go again. We're getting all of our stuff popping onto our screen. Code worked pretty good. Key takeaways from this lesson, kids, is just understanding how to use the math random class. It can be substituted anytime you need to generate a number. How does it work? Math random generates a number between 0.0 and 0.9999, exclusive from 1. Up here, we use 2 to generate a number between 0 and 1. 0.1 times 2 is 0.2, which will cast to 0. 0.99 times 2 is 1.98, which will cast to 1. And that's how we got a random number between 0 and 1. After that, we just use math random to multiply either towards the length of our array or width and height. Again, key to all of this is understanding how math random works and how it generates numbers. Hopefully this video helped you understand how to use random a little better. As always, kids, if you have any questions, come see me. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next lesson. See you later, kids. Bye, bye, bye.